Most people will suggest you should not have any conversation with a narcissist, for there is no winning, but that's not a practical advice because it's not always possible. Sometimes you're caught in a situation where you have to face them, where you have to respond, say something. You cannot just leave. For example, if it is your narcissistic father that you're trying to deal with, and the case is all about inheritance, you want what is rightfully yours, and you know this business that you are a part of heavily depends on you, but they are adamant at throwing you out, and they are giving you a difficult time. The topic for today's episode is how to win in any conversation with a narcissist. If that sounds interesting and you're eager to know more, please make sure to subscribe before we begin, because your subscription helps in spreading awareness about narcissistic abuse. There are 2 steps that you must take to win in any conversation against a narcissist. Step number 1 is you have to see it as a chess game. They will make moves, and so will you. But what will set you apart as a winner is your understanding of their intentions and what they're trying to do. You see, a narcissist operates through their masks, which means you will never ever interact with their true self. There won't be any integrity, no amicability, cooperation, or things alike. So they will try to manipulate you. They will try to twist things, change your perspective to have maximum control over you and your emotions. That being said, you need to understand and accept that a narcissist is not interested in knowing what is right. They're only interested in being right, which means they can stoop to any level to prove to you, to convince you that they are right. And what does that tell us? You can't fight them with just facts. That doesn't matter. They don't care. They are liars. They are totally delusional. They will deny hard core evidence, like that shows them they're crazy, that shows them they have committed the crime, and so on. So, what should be your approach? Your approach should be to detect the real motive, the real intention behind their words. What are they trying to do? Are they trying to elicit any particular emotion in you, like anger? Are they trying to make you sad? Are they trying to belittle you? What is it that a narcissist is trying to do? What are they trying to accomplish? What is in it for them? By getting all of this information through your understanding of their nature and behavior, you can one-up them. For example, if they are trying to, let's say, make you angry, and they are using very manipulative words to do so, they're trying to pull your string, and you now know what's actually going on, then you can decide not to react to them angrily so that they feel defeated in that moment. They lose control. Yes, that will enrage them, but that is the point. If you give them any reaction, particularly and especially the reaction they want out of you, then you lose and they win. But if you know already what they are trying to do, what the game plan is, if you will, and you do what you should do instead of what they want you to do, you win. Another example can be of a negotiation strategy that you can use against a narcissist. See, you cannot tell the narcissist what you want. Let's say you want $2 million, okay, but you cannot tell them that, especially if the narcissist is interested in winning and they want you to lose. And if you know that that is what they are trying to do, then what you can do is you can just throw in a bigger number. Let's say you want $10 million, knowing that they are not going to give it to you. That you're never going to get it, and they'll just try to bargain and negotiate and maybe come down to 3, 2, 5, something around that number, thinking that they have won, and they have given you the bare minimum, and you have lost. So, how did you use your understanding of the nature here? You predicted that they are driven by power. So, instead of just fighting with them like this, you gave them supplies. What supply am I talking about? The false idea that they have power in the situation. They have defeated you, and they have won. What is also very important to understand is that a narcissist can push your buttons only until those buttons remain invisible, meaning only until you remain unaware of these buttons, disconnected from your emotions. But once you recognize them, once you understand that you need to regulate your emotions, you take your power back. You stop them from pulling those strings, which essentially will give you the power to remain stoic in almost any conversation with them. And it will help you to focus on their intentions, on their hidden agendas, instead of their triggering words. So, step number 1 is all about predicting their move before you make any move, and giving the appropriate response so that they lose without knowing they have lost, or they feel powerless, and they fail to do anything.
Step 2. You cannot change a narcissist's perspective about it. Step number 2 is all about understanding that you cannot change a narcissist's perspective. See, when we argue with people, what are we essentially trying to do? You need to ask yourself this. We essentially try to change their perspective so that they can see ours. But that is impossible in this context, isn't it? You can't change them.
As I was explaining in point number 1, they are delusional. So, whenever you enter this battlefield, you have to go in with an agenda in mind, and you have to know when to stop. You cannot keep going on and on and on and playing that game. No, you have to have control in your hands by knowing when you will say enough. I'm not going to take it forward from here, or you are.
You need to have a deep awareness of when you will feel exhausted, and then you will need to leave for your sake, which makes it easy to understand that all conversations with a narcissist should be goal-oriented.
You cannot just go in and try to explain to your parents why they were abusive. It's a lost cause. You already failed. There is no purpose in that kind of a conversation. I would not recommend, because my question to you would be, what are you trying to get from that conversation? Is it about custody? Is it about alimony? Is it about child support? Is it about your inheritance? What is it? And then accordingly, you have to maneuver it. You cannot jump into this shark pool thinking or assuming that you will come out alive, unhurt. No, that's not going to happen. You will have bites all over your body because there are sharks, and you are a human being. Step number 2, at its core, is all about recognizing which traits of the narcissist that you're dealing with can be used against them. For example, if they are image-focused, how can you use the fear of losing image against them? If they're supply-driven, how could you potentially stroke their ego? Or in other words, consciously foaming only enough to give them this little bit and have something back in return. We call it a transaction. How would you establish that transaction? What would be the nature of it? And what is your risk? If they're paranoid, what fear can be triggered? And how can you make it seem like you're saying it out of concern so that they feel the feeling, and out of their own fear, they do what they were not ready to do in the beginning? For example, if it is your narcissistic father that you're trying to deal with, and the case is all about inheritance, you want what is rightfully yours, and you know this business that you are a part of heavily depends on you, but they are adamant at throwing you out, and they are giving you a difficult time. At the same time, you know they depend on you, that your father will be nothing without you. So how could you potentially use that power that you have in the situation to say, well, if you do not bend your will, if you do not comply, then you will see all of it falling apart, essentially your reputation and the image that you have built. How can you stroke the ego, but not too much, only a little bit, so that they can come to the table, and then you can give them a push, some kind of push so that they agree to what you want them to do, and so on. So, these are basically the strategies that you can use against them to win, and to use their narcissism against them only to save yourself, not to hurt them, and so on. But it takes some effort, I would say a little effort, to come up with a strategy that is unique to you and your case. In conclusion, you have to see them for who they are, and you have to see your conversations with them as some form of a game where you will have to predict their move before you make any, and you'll also have to be in control of your emotions. You will have to hear beyond the words they use. You will have to read their intentions so that you can prepare a strategy against those intentions. And you can behave in ways that will eventually make them think either they have won or that leave those strategies. Leave them with no option except living with that failure. That was it for today's episode. I hope you found it insightful. If you did, let me know in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.